Good evening. Welcome to all gathered here in the council chambers tonight, as well as those watching from home. This work session of the City Council is called to order to talk about speeding on city streets and sidewalk construction projects. So with that, our City Manager, Randy Wheeler, has a presentation for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The first of the two work sessions relates to the citizen concerns about speeding that have been brought to our attention over the last several months. First, the police chief will walk through what we have done so far in response to those concerns, what we're planning to do next, and then it was intended that our city engineer would walk us through the last two elements. Unfortunately, he's had a death in the family over the weekend, so he is unable to join us tonight. So I will walk through those two pieces and relay any follow-up with him later this week. Start with the police department.
Yes, sir. Good evening, members of council. Appreciate this opportunity to address the concerns. You all know we had a number of citizens came out in October and spoke to council meeting concerning various speeding concerns throughout the city, and we've worked in-house to increase the amount of patrol presence as well as speed enforcement throughout the city. And we've done that with the most notable increases in citations issued along Hudgens Road. And part of that is those are two of our most heavily traveled streets is part of where that comes. Excuse me. And so we've done that. We had switched from a program that we had been doing with our speed display signs and started deploying those signs in neighborhoods of concern that citizens were providing feedback to us. And unfortunately, around Thanksgiving, we had a system error with those signs, and we've since been working with our IT department and the manufacturer to rectify that problem. We've got it partially fixed, but not to the point that we can deploy the signs yet. We're hoping to resolve that maybe by the end of this week, so that we can get those back out. Another thing that we've done is we have purchased an unmarked vehicle, patrol vehicle, that will be used primarily for the purpose of traffic enforcement. It's not out on the road yet because we're still waiting on the emergency equipment that has to be installed on it. But we have received the vehicle and we've started receiving the equipment. And once it's all on site, we're looking at about a 2 to 3 week turnaround to get it out and actually in use. I have been meeting regularly with Ms. Dryden, and she's been bringing to me the concerns. A lot of our community apparently is shy. They don't necessarily want to talk to the police chief. That's okay because their concerns are still being relayed to me, and that's the important part is that we know where their concerns are so that we can go out and address those. I think for the most part, those meetings have been pretty productive and very upbeat, and it's working out well for all of us. One of the new things that we're looking at and that I have brought up discussed with the manager and with city engineer, there's a computer program that has become available. I just found out about it at the Chiefs Conference that I went to last year. It's a program called Urban SDK. And what it provides is an array of data that's based on, we all have GPS in our cars and our phones, and that data is collected and is available through certain channels. And this program allows us to access that data. It does not identify individuals. It collects, there were 500 cars and an average of 20 mile an hour, whatever those numbers shake out to be. It doesn't identify anybody at any specific time. But what it allows us to do is we can look at any particular road segment throughout the city, whether it's the 200 block of Wythe Creek Road, 1300 block of Poquoson Avenue, whatever. We can look at a specific area and we can know the total volume of vehicles, average speed, what is the 85th percentile speed, and we'll talk more about that when Mr. Wheeler gets to the speed signs discussion. But it does more than just allow us to address the speeding and know what's going on from that perspective, but it also allows the city engineer and Public Works to access density data and volume data that will allow for the better prioritization of our paving projects, construction projects, timing of certain things, because it breaks it down into segments of the day, not just specifically this is the day it happened. It's, these are your peak volumes, so we know when we need to have a conversation with VDOT or HRSD about when they're going to close down a street, what time of day is best to do that to impact the fewest. So it's a very robust program that this data can be sorted in so many different ways. It will virtually allow almost every department in the city to be guided by the data that it contains. And so it's a really, really good, robust program. So we're looking into that. Like I say, the way things are in today's society, everything comes with a price tag. And I'm sorry, I keep kicking the table. This particular program, if you pay for it up front, it's $45,000 for a 3-year agreement. But that doing it that way includes a discount for doing multi-year at once, and also for the fact that we are a smaller jurisdiction, there's a discount factored into that, so that it's not beyond our ability to afford. And so it's about $45,000 for 3 years.
Chief,
For that
this thing just picks up GPS and does a time, distance, and it doesn't require human input, or?
No, sir. It allows humans to take the data out, but it's I don't know 100% of how they're getting all of the data that they get, and it might be best that I don't.
Yeah. Okay. From reading what you've written, I didn't understand exactly how you got the data, but it transmits to you by itself.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
If we were to enter a contract with this company, they give us access to data that they own through the various satellites and sources that they receive the data from.
If you're interested in that tool, and I think it's certainly worth consideration, we can bring that back to you in February, along with the demonstration, and show you. I've had a chance to use it. I haven't been trained on it, but I've had a chance to use it, and I'm sure that there's way more you can do with it than I was able to discern. But it was really significant and robust. As we are now, we put out the flashing lights, the signs, they record the data, and it's very useful. But this will give us data of every street, every day. And it'll allow us to not just know what's happening right now, but the ability to go backwards in time, and really an evolution. It doesn't completely take away the need for the other, because the signs themselves have a public information and hopefully an effect. But it also allows us to see what's happening on the streets when we don't have the sign. Anything more you want to add on that?
No, sir. That's all I've got on that.
Okay. So, again, I apologize that Sean's not here. He did have a death in his family over the weekend. But there are two things that I'll cover on his behalf. First is the suggestion that some of the citizens have made about the enhanced speed zones for residential speeding. Council has been previously provided, and have provided again the criteria, the most important of which is that 15% of the traffic is going at least 10 miles over the posted speed limit. And I looked back and followed up to a question that Angie asked last week about what's our sign data been telling us. She said, do we have any roads based on that data which would likely hit that threshold? So I said no, I didn't think so, but I went back and checked. And I looked at the most recent data for every street that we check. And the most significant speed percentage at 10 miles or more over the posted speed limit was Ridge Road at 5.6% and Pasture Road at 5. That doesn't, in and of itself, negate the need to analyze this because we all hope that those signs have a deterrent effect. So it's not 10, 15% signs are there, it's 15% at any time. So, and they're going to talk about this later, but we're prepared to begin at council's request, essentially doing a more formalized study. We can do that with the equipment that we have as soon as we get it back, or the new equipment that we're asking you to consider in February. And we can report back to you. And the additional good thing about that is if we use the existing equipment, which is the flashing signs, we can go behind it with the satellite technology and really see if there was a mitigating effect of those signs, and if so, how much. A one-time look is we don't have to do it once and consider it finished, and we can go back to it as often as it makes sense, particularly with the new technology, and we don't have to have the deployment of the portable signs in the queue to get the data we want when we need it. We'll really be able to get it almost any time. And that's I won't say a game changer, but certainly an evolver of information for us. The other issue that was brought to our attention was a suggestion that the council consider installing additional portable speed limit signs similar to those that we installed at Trinity United Methodist Church in that area. The cost to acquire two of those signs as a mated pair is about $7,000, slightly less. Those are for solar signs, so if we were going to deploy them, we need enough access to the sun to keep the batteries charged. But beyond that, we stand ready as a staff to follow up on the 85% speed studies on whatever roads you may identify. We stand ready at your request and direction to bring back the I call it the widget because I perpetually forget the name of it, Urban SDK in February, and we're ready at your direction to move forward to acquire and install as many pairs of the signs similar to those at Trinity at your direction. With that, we're here to answer any questions. If they are detailed engineering questions that I don't know the answer to, I will get you an answer as promptly as I can.
Question, please, about the Urban SDK program. Is that something the school system transportation department could benefit from?
I believe so.
Very good. Council, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have one question. Anyway, the question is on the report that you sent out, talking about the 85%, and you're talking about 15%. Is it that 15% of the traffic is exceeding the speed limit by 10 miles an hour?
Yes.
Or not the 85?
It's the 85 that are under that percentage.
Yeah.
So I just reversed the math. To trigger that requirement, you would have to have a minimum of 15% of the traffic going more than 10 miles over the speed limit.
We got this back in September timeframe. Is this something similar that we would get for all the areas we're talking about?
Absolutely remember that. I have an entire book of we do this almost every week, sometimes two, when our equipment's working. And that was the book that I consulted in referencing Ridge Road and Pasture Road's most recent statistics. In terms of printout with the new system, I don't know the answer to that. I'll defer to the chief.
So the system it'll allow us to produce reports similar to that. I don't know that you would want one for every street every week, but we could get you data that you want when there's a concern. Would probably be the best way to go about that. If somebody raises a concern, you let us know about it, and we'll pull the data and we'll provide it to you.
Could I ask a follow-on? I'm sorry.
No, you got it. Following.
Am I right in recalling that we'll be able to go back in time, at least somewhat? So if the concern was expressed on Tuesday about something that happened the previous Saturday, we can set the data range to capture that.
Yes. The data set that the contract would provide is on day one, we would have access to the previous 90 days data. And then it accumulates from there. And so a year from now, we'll be able to compare current with last year.
So my question now, I'm under the assumption, mine works, Keith. All right. Typically these software subscription services offer proof of concept beyond just demoing the data or the service. They'll let you, because the data is being collected all along, right? Are you able to capture a snippet to maybe compare to our own data that we've been collecting to see if there's a parity of what they collect versus what we collect to see the difference, so we can see the quality of the data?
They did, the demo they did provided me with data from September of this year. It's a little bit, I have to say, it takes me a bit of time to actually interpret it because they've just made some assumptions when they set speed limits. So, for example, the citywide speed limit, they set at 30 where ours is 25. They assumed a speed limit of 45 on Victory Boulevard, and it's 55. So I have to spend a little bit of time with the data, the sample data they gave me, to try to get the parity. But I can, when I spend that time, I can give you the answer. It just wasn't. It won't look like a pretty chart right now.
I have a comment or a couple comments on this. In particular, the urban SDK, and I really appreciate being able to take that data, that aggregate data, and be able to use that, parse it down to inform our decisions. And that's even the topics of the work session, the sidewalks, the speeding, again, the public works, all of that, and really be able to have some quantitative data to be able to help inform our decisions. And I also really like that it can give us data down to the segments so that we can really strategically place those signs on the segments, not just the roads, but the segments where they could be most helpful to us.
And a follow-on to that is that same data, much to your ask about whether or not the school systems can benefit from that data, that this can also help us with our economic development studies as well, and also tracking the success of our seafood festivals and seeing which days are better traffic and things like that.
Chief, I have a question. I apologize for arriving late, and I hope I'm not asking a question about something that's already been discussed. But I think I saw an email a few weeks ago where we were getting an unmarked patrol car that we could put in different locations to check for speeding and so forth, and possibly in driveways where people have volunteered to let you use their driveways to look for people who may have been seen recently in our neighborhood speeding. Okay, I've also heard in the past that it was illegal to put a police car on private property doing that kind of thing. Are you able to do that now?
It's never been illegal.
Okay.
In some communities, it's unadvisable, and depending on the circumstances of that particular community. We have received the unmarked vehicle. We're waiting on the emergency equipment to install on it before we can actually put it in service. And we have been in contact. I received a list of folks volunteering their driveways from Miss Dryden, and my staff have made contact with all those folks. And actually did a really good job. They made a spreadsheet for me that tells me, that they did affirm that we can use their driveway, and also got additional information. So a couple of folks called me a few minutes before you show up, so I can move my car out of the driveway so you can use it and that type of thing. So it's going pretty well.
Thank you very much. I hope that hadn't been discussed before I got here.
Just part of it.
No, not at this time. I think it'd be interesting to see have the company talk to us and show us what they got and what it can do.
Yes, sir. Very good. Councilwoman Bunting, any thoughts to add?
May I ask one more question? I'm sorry. Randy mentioned that he could bring it back to us and demo it in February. And then what would be the turnaround time to, I don't know if there's training or anything like that. When could it theoretically come online?
That I would have to ask the company. It sounds like it would be a fairly quick turnaround. I mean, part of it would be how quickly we could execute the contract. Of course, like us to get into any contract, I'm sure as Mr. Wheeler doesn't, without Mr. Moore having a look at the contract first before we lock into something. But it sounds like it would happen very quickly.
Are any other local communities using this, do you know?
He told me there were other departments in Virginia, and I cannot remember off the top of my head who else has signed on to it.
But when we come back to you in February, if that's what you'd like, we can bring that list of who their current clients in Virginia are. I don't know the answer to your question about how quick it is, but the data we're already able to access, the only thing that appears to need tweaking is making sure that each one accurately reflects the speed limit of that road. Because as the chief said, there are assumptions. They haven't fine-tuned it to us, but the data itself is already there.
Also, how do we feel about the solar-powered speed? Are we in favor of staff to bring us a proposal for a pair of those?
Not at this time. Let's look at some more data before we go putting bumps on our roads. I mean, we have to, that's one thing, but I wouldn't, good thing right now.
How many do we currently have?
How many of the permanently deployed speed
Solar-powered signs.
we have
so
the
we
two.
can move
We
about.
have two there at Trinity, and we have the one on Bunting, which is a one-way directional and represents the technology of its day. But the newer ones are lighter, much cheaper. Like I said, they're about $7,000 for the pair. The current one.
What about the mobile ones that we can move about?
We
How many
have two of those.
Two?
And as the chief said, we've got software problems with both of them. As soon as they get corrected, we'll have two of those. But those are battery operated, and they last more or less a week before they need to be pulled and batteries replaced, and that's usually when they download the data as well. So the two mobile signs are not in and of itself part of a permanent solution. They continue to be a mobile solution. So in answer to the other, the one on Bunting, by the time we took that out, if you were thinking about that, we'd probably wreck it to the point that would not be usable. And the ones at Trinity could be moved around, but they're serving an important purpose there. So I also wanted to do additional signs. I think the best way to do that is to suggest to us where you'd like those signs, and we'll go about getting them for you.
Let me ask.
Go
I
ahead.
apologize. So, Chief, what would be the utility of having these signs if we were to deploy the satellite system? Would it just be for deterrent?
More or less, yeah. If I compare the data and they come back very similar, always a little bit of discrepancy between different types of technology, but provided that they're similar, then the sole purpose, remaining purpose of the signs is that deterrent effect.
So validation and deterrent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it have a deterrent effect? Do we know? Those signs?
It appears to, and I hope she don't mind me quoting, but Ms. Dryden even told me that when I had it up in front of her house, she would see people slow down because of the sign.
That and her on the front porch has some input to.
Yeah, well, that probably contributes.
Yeah, and I live on the middle of Ridge Road, so I see it all.
Yeah.
And there were 17,000 people that went down my road and 8,685 were speeding. You weren't really speeding. So that's way more than 15%.
Let me clarify that. We're talking about people that are going more than 10 miles over the speed limit. I don't dispute her percentage on the number of people that were going above the posted speed limit.
My earlier comments a while ago, I was on the wrong subject. I was talking about speed bumps. I'll just retract all of that.
So clarification, I'm sorry, and this was to purchase permanent signs, correct?
Yes.
That are, so we could still move them around if we get this data and we say, a really good spot for this might be over here, possibly, then we do have the option to maybe move those if it makes more sense.
The fixed signs. So if we had two more of those, we could put those on streets that have high numbers of, over 10 miles an hour as a deterrent, and then use it in conjunction with the other software. Then we would know how accurate, what a difference it is making.
Right, but the urban SDK would give us intel, so to speak, as to where those locations would be, that they should be deployed.
The deterrent part of it, I think, would be a factor as well. Just having the fixed sign there.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, we don't know right now where to put them, except from
Right.
citizen input.
Right,
And
right.
move them around, but that would tell us.
That would tell us
specifically.
exactly
So like.
before we selected locations.
Yeah,
If we were
that's
to
exactly
order
right.
two more.
Exactly.
All that being said, any further comments on the Urban SDK program or the permanent solar-powered speed signs? Okay. That being said, can we reach a council consensus, provide direction to the manager to bring us a proposal in February for the Urban SDK program and two of the solar-powered speed signs?
I agree with that.
Is
Yes.
there council consensus on that? Okay. And in order to determine if we qualify for the residential speed zones, we would need to do a traffic survey to see if we meet the criteria. So we would also need to provide direction to staff on which roads we would like to go that traffic study. Examples could be Ridge Road, Pasture Road, Wrens Road, Forest Road, Browns Neck Road. So if we can pick three of those, I don't know that we need to do that tonight, but we can if need be. Would it be advisable to do that tonight?
Completely up to you. As soon as we get our current signs back up and operational, we can begin to undertake that. Obviously, we can only do one at a time with each sign. You can do that now, and we can bring that back at the same time to say, we looked at these three road segments, three roads, and this is what we found. We can then follow up, assuming you authorize us to acquire the urban SDK. We can go back after we've got that up and running and go back and do a second analysis of the same road segment to see, and look at that deterrent effect and sort of how are people behaving drive-wise when there are not the extra things on the road. So we've got a few. We can certainly start. Just a reminder, though, that the state guideline is 15% or more going 10 miles an hour or more on the road. We can do that study, by the way, with our own resources. We don't need engineers or any other than the one we have. We don't need any new equipment. We just need the equipment we have to be working. and we're working on that.
That being said, earlier it was discussed by the manager that Ridge Road and Pasture Road were problem areas. Can we agree on those two for the traffic study? Yes, ma'am.
So if we were to purchase the 2 solar power ones, how many streets could you manage a study on at the same time using the equipment we have plus those 2?
The solar, the permanently mounted signs do not collect data.
Okay.
They are simply informational. So with the equipment we have, assuming it's working, we could do up to 2 a week. Now, we do have a few locations that were already in the queue to be subject to the next deployment of those signs when they went down. So we'd have to decide whether or not to put that a little bit more on the back burner and move this in front of it. But the short answer to your question, for each unit that's operable, we can do 1 a week, assuming that the week is the duration time for the study.
What were the streets again?
Ridge and Pasture were the 2 most problematic area based on the data the manager reviewed.
Okay.
And then, I mean, Wrens, Forest, Browns Neck are 3 other problem areas that we hear about.
Something that, obviously we don't want to suggest that any road is more important than another, because we all know that Yorktown Road had its, and we've had another recent hit and run, I think, listed in your report. May not have been a person. I don't know. Might have been a car. I don't know. But, both Browns Neck and Wrens Road are straightaways, which do tend towards certain groups, young people, thinking back in my own history, wanting to go faster when you have a long straightaway. So those 2 roads, I think, would be ones that I would want to put on also the priority, not necessarily ahead of those 2. But they are ones that I think that are important ones to look at, because I think that they have a high attractiveness for people to let their heads get away from them.
And Poquoson Avenue also is one. There's a few small straightaways there, and we've had a number of accidents at the intersection of Poquoson Avenue and Little Florida Road. That little straight stretch there, they come through there pretty good too.
Just for the sake of the immediate future, we need to kind of dial it down to about 3 for this round. So was that Browns Neck you were referring to? Is that?
Certainly the 2 you have.
Okay.
Does anyone have a preference themselves?
I would like to see Ridge Road.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
Ridge, certainly Ridge, and then...
And I don't know if I necessarily have a preference. I think Pasture might be a good choice, but I don't really have a preference either way.
We're just getting started. Those sound fine to me.
Okay. Debbie?
So name the ones where you identified again?
Ridge, Pasture, and Browns Neck?
What about Forest Road?
That's one we can do after the first round.
I think that as you're considering it, if you want the straightaway roads, Wrens is probably, in terms of its volume, the highest volume of the roads like that. So you might
Have we not done a study on Wrens itself to already have it?
We
so
have.
We have that data already. So does
we
that
do.
count?
Well, the data doesn't show that it meets the criteria. So what we're talking about is rerunning the data based on
Understood.
current driving.
I would like to elevate Wrens.
Okay, Ridge, Pasture, and Wrens, would they be the first 3, and then we'll revisit this at a later date? Okay, we have a consensus on that?
Before we decide, I just want to bring up Hudgens, because here in the report, it stated report you were referring to earlier, that they, with Creek and Hudgens, had the most notable citation increases. So
Yeah, I mean,
Hudgens.
that's certainly one we can add to the list, but just for the first three, can we agree with Ridge, Pasture, and then we'll go from there?
But each one's a week, once we get the equipment back. And there's equipment to do 2 at a time?
Yes.
Okay, so each one we're adding a week, kind of.
Okay, so that's the consensus then on those three roads, review first, and then we'll follow up as needed. Any further discussion on those two items? All right, just to share with the public what we have done so far and the commitment that we have to addressing the concerns for speeding on our city streets. As the chief described, we've already purchased the unmarked police car with the lights, sirens, and radar equipment to go along with it. That's upwards of $75,000. If we do agree to make the purchase of the Urban SDK program, that's another $45,000, and then about $7,000 for a pair of solar power speed signs. So we're looking at a total investment in the neighborhood of $127,000. Just to make a statement of the commitment that we have on the council side, staff side, to address this problem.
Sir?
Any further direction from us?
Nope. Got it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Back in February with all three pieces.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Chief Cates. And thank you as well to Mr. Sean Crawford, our city engineer. It was a very informative, well-done presentation. And moving right along to our discussion on sidewalks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The second of our two work sessions this evening is a continuation that began in its most recent iteration about the same time that the citizens were coming forward to talk about their concerns about speeding, particularly in the residential areas. So to recap, council, following the recommendation from the Planning Commission that we begin to prioritize sidewalk projects in future versions of the capital improvements plan, so not the one just adopted, but the next one, which we'll be working on before you know it. Council appropriated $350,000 prior to the end of the calendar year to serve as seed money for sidewalk development, and we have talked about the types of challenges that we have. Maybe even more so than some communities, because of the nature of our being a city as young as we are. The roadways most of them were installed prior to when we were a city. The rights of way were installed or acquired prior to when we were a city, and as we know from examples across the city, the VDOT didn't always build the road exactly in the middle of the right-of-way that they did acquire. So right-of-way is an issue for us. Stormwater is an issue for us because of our deep ditches and our coastal interface. It's even more of a concern for us than it might be if we were in the middle of the state. And obviously, safety of citizens is of utmost importance. So those things all sort of work together and work towards sidewalks. And what we have sort of trying to break this out and asking for your direction is around the tune of major projects that you'd like to begin that planning process on, and also at the same time, or in lieu of, if there are smaller projects that you would like us to start on as well. The number one first step on any project of any scale at all is a detailed right-of-way survey. So we know exactly the bounds of the public rights-of-way and where we have it and where we don't. And then we move on to topographic survey, which could be part of the preliminary engineering, which makes sense. We know that on complicated projects, one of the decisions that will ultimately have to be made is, do we install curb and gutter and attempt to pipe the ditches? That drives expense, and it also deals with stormwater quantity issues. Or do we seek to do projects behind the ditch line where there is a ditch line, which we may not have the right-of-way for, and would seem more intrusive into people's properties. So the different values that we talked about at the retreat come into play there. The greater good versus the individual property right, both are important. And so the right-of-way survey is the way to begin to discern that. And so for the big projects, at your direction, we'll begin the right-of-way survey process. That is not something we can do in-house. We will need to go out to either a survey company and or an engineering company that has a survey component. And then for a smaller project, if it is relatively uncomplicated, which means, in my world, no obvious utility conflicts. I didn't mention utilities before. Both above ground and below ground utilities are an important component of any sidewalk project. But if a smaller project looks uncomplicated by deep ditches or obvious utility conflicts, we might, at your direction, go all the way from right-of-way survey to preliminary engineering on that, and then come back. So to encapsulate that, if you've got a small project, if there is a small project that you'd like us to do with your direction, we will proceed to preliminary engineering. It's going to take a little while to get the report back, so if that number is more than we expect, we'll be back to brief you in between. If it's well within the budget, we'll roll on, keeping you informed along the way. And for the larger projects at your direction, we will begin the process of acquiring consultant support to do the right-of-way survey. At your direction, we could just move in that direction, or we could get the proposals and come back to you and talk about the cost and the time associated with that before we went any further. Whichever way you'd like to do it, we're prepared to go in either direction.
Any ideas how long the survey would take, like a right-of-way survey?
No, sir. It would be informed by how many properties. We will have that once we know the boundaries of the property.
Okay.
I would say, as a general comment, when we go out and try to get a property survey on a single property, it can take 4 weeks or more to get that back, and that's what people prioritize.
Mm-hmm. Is there economies of scale?
Yes.
So the more we do, the less per.
It would. I couldn't imagine it would be 4 weeks each. But there is an economy of scale for sure.
Okay.
Both in terms of cost and
My overall general thought is that, going ahead with smaller plans is great as long as it's part of a big picture kind of concept. And the big picture, of course, would require obviously a bigger right-of-way survey. And also, when we look at the city, thank you for this excellent thing. If anybody, I don't know whether they're showing this at home or not, this map that shows the things. Information on roadways that are 35 mile an hour is different than roadways that are 25 mile an hour. I live in a subdivision with like 68 homes, and the speed limit inside is 25 mile an hour, but it's kind of a dead end. So there's not a whole lot of speeding problem going on there, and people walking the streets in the mornings and the afternoons for exercise and walking dogs, stuff like that. That's different when you get to a road like Odd Road, which is also 25 mile an hour, as is Wren's Road, but we know the problems there, which we just talked about with regard to speeding. So something like those roads would have more of a concern to me than the other ones. On the way to the retreat, I was telling some of the members here that last Saturday morning, or like a week ago Saturday morning, I came down With Creek, turned right on Little Florida, was coming down toward the middle school, and on the left side of the road, or the north side of the road, there was a lady walking with groceries in her hand. And she was on the little white line, and to the left of her was not a very big ditch, but a ditch just the same, and probably bigger than she was. And all I could think of was the fact that if I was a school bus coming that direction, and there was a truck full of dirt coming down from the thing off Robert Bruce, the subdivision that's being worked on there, where would she end up going? She was already going into side, or driveways around that way like that. I'm not saying let's do Little Florida right now, let's be the first on the list, but it's a concern on a big road like that, which most people, not only do they drive down, but they also walk down that road to get to where they're going. And I remember one of the first years I lived here, coming back from Seafood Fest down Little Florida Road and realizing, hey, that's a problem. I'm not going to do that again outside a car. So my opinions are, yes, we can look at these things, and I think some people already have lists of the roadways that are kind of a primary where we should look first for this country, maybe overall. And my thanks to Paul Schubert and Roxanne Overby, who are right over there, thank you, on a list that they done, getting information from individuals. Now, it's not official, although I don't know what makes anything official, as to the roads that they would like to see, or people in Poquoson would like to see taken care of, and it does along those lines. But it doesn't mean that we can jump on those right away, because the thought of putting a sidewalk all the way down the length of Little Florida Road from Wood Creek to Poquoson Avenue is just like, I can't imagine what it would cost or how long it would take. But doing piecemeal or something like that, getting along those directions would be something we should look at.
So for me, especially living in the eastern precinct in the eastern part of the city, is connectivity between the eastern part of the city and the With Creek Road commercial corridor, and having a connection between the With Creek Road sidewalks and the schools, some sort of connection that keeps you off of the 35 mile an hour streets, even if it means some zigzagging, because there's a lot of zigzagging to be had. But right now there is not a way to connect the schools to the sidewalks on With Creek Road without at least going on Poquoson or Little Florida for some time. And I had originally thought, when the sidewalk was installed, that segment on the Odd Road from the high school to Terrace, I got a bee in my bonnet and I said, you know what, we need to put a sidewalk between Hudgens and Terrace. And that was the original thing, and I was wound up about that. But in looking at the map, talking to folks, taking the ride with Debbie, thank you, the connection on Little Florida from With Creek Road to Gay Lynn, where there is a sidewalk started and there are side yards, and that would take you to Odd Road. And instead of having to walk or ride your bike 0.6 of a mile on Hudgens, you could ride it for 0.3 of a mile on Odd Road and still get that connectivity to With Creek. And that's, for me, an immediate concern, just being able to have that connection and stay off a 35 mile an hour road, even if it means zigzagging along.
Any other comments?
I've got a question. An easement is technically private property, but you don't have to have permission to do stuff on an easement. Can you put a sidewalk on an easement?
Depends on the easement is the question. A right-of-way is actually our property.
Right, I understand
And
that.
an easement, depending on the nature of the easement, We may be able to, or we may not. If we've got a road easement, then sidewalks are part of a road infrastructure. If it's a utility easement, the answer to that's no. Or if it's a private easement, there are private easements all over the city, the answer to that would be no.
Okay, I'm just curious about that.
So how far does the 300 and so many $1,000 that's been in reserve for this study, how far would that go?
I'd love to have an answer for that question, but in order to know
Ish.
that, we need to know what the bounds of this are so we can begin that process. I'm absolutely not trying to be vague, but there's a huge difference between 3 properties and 50 properties, and a real big difference between deep ditches and something like between the CVS and Hopkins Court, which is flat, no ditches, and don't have any apparent utilities in the way. So,
But to be clear, we're not trying to do a study of the city to then go and make decisions on where to target. You want us to target first and then do those studies. With
we're asking, where would you like us to start? As opposed to, we're not anticipating doing a detailed right-of-way study for the entire city. I guess we could back up and do that. I don't think $350,000 is going to get close. And while I don't have an answer to your question, we will once we begin to shop your concepts. But whatever we do, and particularly the large project, we may be lucky to get through engineering with that level of money. That there may be the ability to do a very small project as part of that overall budget, but this is really seed money to get started, to take your direction and begin to translate it into surveys and your direction, preliminary engineering, at which point I think we're going to have some important and not always easy decisions to make about construction type and method, about stormwater, about private property rights. If we have right-of-way, they're going to be a lot of important but not necessarily easy decisions in front of us.
How much of what was done back in 2011 would be applicable in this case?
You're talking about the study that was done? I checked to see if there were any detailed right-of-way studies associated, which was not. And if you'll recall, in the recommendations, recommendation 1, begin with a detailed right-of-way study. We didn't do that. So that VHB study helps to inform the 2010 work of the sidewalk committee, but in neither case were detailed right-of-way studies or preliminary engineering.
Right. My own feeling was, or is, that the connectivity, and we've talked about this, between With Creek and what exists now, coming down Poquoson Avenue, is an overall big project. To be able to connect basically everybody that lives in Messick all the way to With Creek, and although it's a roundabout way, up to With Creek on Poquoson Avenue, and then left to get to the downtown, as we call it, is important from a long-range perspective. As far as a short, can we get it done, get something done, the aspect of what you were just talking about, coming down Little Florida just enough to get into Gay Lynn, if that's even feasible, which would allow you to get within stone's throw, although a good stone's throw, of the high school, which would get you all the way, like we just completed, on Poquoson Avenue down and across Cedar Road through the park area.
I think that's a good idea.
All right, thank you very much to all for your input. I do have some comments to share that I think might provide some summary to what we're discussing, just to share with the public what our intentions are and what we've done to prepare ourselves for this decision point tonight with providing direction to staff. We're prohibited by law from being together in groups of more than 2. So we've gone to the extent of taking sidewalk tours throughout the city in groups of 2. I think I've personally done 5 so far, but all the council members have been able to do that, share our thoughts with each other. We've had extensive conversations with each other as well as staff to be as best informed as we can for right now. This will be a multi-year project. Has already been said, connectivity between existing sections of sidewalks and residential streets to keep people off of the 35-mile-an-hour streets is certainly a priority. We will focus on, of course, pedestrian safety first and foremost, along with walkability, with emphasis on efficiency and cost effectiveness, which is the case with all projects undertaken by the city. So all that being said, for the purpose of this work session, can we reach a consensus, direction to the manager to do a detailed right-of-way survey on Little Florida Road between CVS and Galen Drive, and a detailed right-of-way survey on Poquoson Avenue on both sides between Cedar Road and the intersection of Poquoson Avenue and Wythe Creek. And what this direction will do will enable the manager to bring us a cost estimate on those surveys in those 3 locations so we can make an informed, educated decision on moving forward. Is that a consensus?
Since we don't know how much that right-of-way study would cost on Poquoson Avenue, I just would like the opinion of others. I think it would be a good idea if we get a quote on that first for both sides of the road.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Is that what he said? Okay, I thought he
Yes.
said to go ahead
bring-
and
to-
start that right-of-way study.
To bring, let me restate, make sure I've got it right, to go ahead and develop the project scopes, solicit the proposals from our consulting engineers, which I'm thinking we're going to be able to use for this. And then once we have the information on cost and anticipated time to do each, to come back and present it to you, at which point we make the next decision to move forward. Okay.
Yes, thank you. All right, any further questions or comments on that? We appreciate everybody's input. Randy, is there anything else we need to provide you? Is that clear?
It is clear, and we'll update you, and because we'll be in process for a little bit, I'll take the opportunity during subsequent city council meetings to just, during my comments, to provide an update on where we are with this, because it'll have a bit of a rollout, so I'll use that as one way to keep the public informed and sort of how we're advancing on that.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. So that will conclude the work session, and we'll move on to the regular council meeting at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to everybody gathered in the council chambers tonight, and welcome along with everybody watching from home. This meeting of Poquoson City Council is called to order. If y'all would please join me for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we're thankful for this day and a new year in this wonderful city, state, and country that you've blessed us with. Help us to always acknowledge you as the source of our many blessings. We understand that there's no greater calling in life than service to others. And as public servants, please lead, guide, and direct us as we make decisions on behalf of those elected that have elected us to serve them. In Christ's name we pray.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for being here with us tonight. I see we do have some speakers. So if we can get a motion to amend the agenda, please, to move the audience for visitors between items B and C on the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilwoman Emmett,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Mayor Hugs.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie. First on the list to speak with us is Miss Bonnie Wilgus. Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome, Miss Wilgus.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for hearing us and for Ms. Dryden for the work she's been doing with the council. Pasture Road is a disaster. And I live there. I walk my dog every day, and every day is people speeding past us. So I'm thankful that you guys are taking this into consideration of how dangerous it is. It's a very slim road. I have a small dog. We get on sidewalk on the driveways when we can, but that's not always feasible. There's large ditches. And we walk now, we have to amend our times to walking to about 9 o'clock in the morning, which is a long time for my little dog to have to wait to go for her morning walks, because it is such a disaster. But I do thank you for the work that you're doing for that, and I would look forward to hearing more of what's going to happen.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks again for being with us. Miss Debbie Dryden.
I would like to speak on the speeding that does occur. And I know that the most ticketing is on With Creek Road and Hudgens Road, but that is because that is where the police officers sit the most, not that that is where the most speeding is. I live on Wrens Road. We've had over 17,000 exact 17,589 cars in a week, 7 days, and 8,685 were going over the speed limit. That's not 10 miles over the speed limit. That is over the speed limit. We had 343 that did go 10 miles over the speed limit. And I do have some that were going 36 to 40 and even 41 to 45 at different times of the day. So I'm hoping y'all will consider getting some of the flashing signs to slow the people down. I mean, I've lived in Poquoson a majority of my life, and when I can't walk my dog down my road because I don't feel safe, then I should be able to feel safe on a road that I live on, that I pay taxes to live on. And I have been working with the chief of police, and there have been more citations written. I would like to see more than just With Creek Road and Hudgens Road. There is data that shows the time that the people are speeding, so I believe that needs to be the time that they are setting on the different roads. I was able to get, I think it's about 20 citizens of Poquoson to, the police department can use their driveways to, for the unmarked car to start writing some more citations, and hopefully the citizens will get the picture that, you know, you're not going to be speeding in our neighborhoods. And I'm not for people getting tickets. I'm for people respecting our neighborhoods. So anyway, I hope y'all will consider some of the higher fine signs. I know there's a lot of, VDOT has laws and stuff, but, you know, there's other places that have them, and I'm sure there's some way that it can be worked around or something can be done to slow the people down and stop them somehow. I know it's not going to be 100%, but like I said, I want to be able to walk down the road and not feel like I have to jump out of the way. Anyway, so I hope y'all consider some of the signs for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Ms. Gail Beagle.
And I have a copy of what I'm going to say for everybody if you want to take one. We had speeding at the end of Hunts Neck Road too, so that was good. I like hearing your input, Debbie, and everything. They come down to the end of our circle and they will oftentimes just gun it out, even though it's kind of a curvy and they're dangerous. So I do encourage more watch on the safety. But thank you all for taking time to hear about that as well as this. I'm up here, as no surprise to some of you all, that I would like to address the proposed acquisition of the property at the end of Hunts Neck Road, which was legally sold and deeded from my ancestors to the current owners at 328 Hunts Neck Road. Our families have gathered signatures from 181 residents in the vicinity of this property, with only one individual declining to sign that petition. The overwhelming consensus among these residents is to preserve the area in its current state. A simple cul-de-sac that offers a safe environment for adults, children, and pets to walk, bike, and enjoy the beautiful scenic views. Despite raising these concerns with the city council members and the mayor, I've been told that the city is acting in response to the wishes of its citizens. However, this sentiment does not reflect the opinions of many constituents who oppose these changes. I would like to urge the council to consider the voices of these residents who also contribute to our community. Furthermore, I question the necessity of pursuing legal action to acquire this property when alternative waterfront properties are available for purchase. These options could provide the city with a more expansive area for water access, parks, and recreational facilities, to include the recently requested additional lighted courts for pickleball that I've heard about. Pursuing these alternatives would be more cost-effective for taxpayers and less disruptive to our community. Two suitable properties that I recently saw on Friday are on Browns Neck Road, approximately the 200 block. It's 15 acres of waterfront land, zoned commercial, listed by RE/MAX, and I provided the number for you if you wanted to check that out. And since it is zoned commercial, it's used to having traffic, and there are commercial properties nearby, I'd like to add. Also for sale, 87 Pasture Road, 23.21 acres of unique waterfront property. Skip Martin is the agent, and I provided his number as well. You can actually ride down these roads, and on the one on Pasture, you can see a layout of the property, and it's very nice, and it would be nice for the city, without having to take land or say that land belongs to you, that it's been deeded and paid by taxpayers. Both properties offer ample space for the city's intended uses and are being sold willingly by their owners. These locations would better serve the city's goals without altering the character of our quiet residential neighborhood. I respectfully request that the City Council reconsider its approach and explore these alternatives. Let us preserve the current state of Hunts Neck Road and avoid unnecessary legal expenses that burden our taxpayers. Thank you for your attention in this matter, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Gail Beagle, my husband Mark Beagle, and my mom Edith Inslee.
Thank you, Gail. Does anybody else like to speak during the audience for visitors? We have Mr. Charles Southall with us as well.
Yeah, my apologies, Mr. Mayor, for not signing in as a speaker, but given the opportunity, I do wish to speak on the topic of speeding, which has been amply addressed in your work session, which I was pleased to attend, and then later on by the speakers who preceded me. I live at 912 Poquoson Avenue. Probably a decent golfer could hit a golf ball from the home I live in now to the home I was raised in, and I've lived there for almost 60 years. In that time, I've seen our city grow an order of magnitude in terms of the number of residents, and in a positive way. And I've also seen the quality of life in this city increase, especially as it relates to outdoor recreation, the ability to go walking on public sidewalks, public facilities to enjoy, and that sort of thing. All of that at a time when the roadway infrastructure and speed limits haven't really changed that much over the course of the years. All of that having been said, to say this, the increase in residents, the increase in outdoor and quality of life activities, and the concerns expressed by the citizens relative to speeding and reckless driving on our roadways seem to have happened over time, but have now coalesced into something that concerns me quite a bit as I watch people go up and down Poquoson Avenue, sometimes side by side in an all-out drag race in front of my home. That's unacceptable, frankly. It's unacceptable to me. It's unacceptable to some of my fellow citizens who've spoken here today. On a positive note, I am encouraged quite a bit by what this council is doing and by what, in particular, Chief Cates is doing to address the concerns of the citizens and the confluence of these issues that we now face. To the discussion I've heard today, I have a couple of suggestions, one of which is, given the substantial investment being made by the city and the effort being expended by city employees, council members, and citizens alike, I would think that we would be looking downstream at how and when we measure the effects of all of these efforts. So what kind of results do we expect and by when in terms of reduction in reports of reckless driving and speeding, reduction in the data, which hopefully we'll now be able to get much more data and be able to watch the data trends, and more importantly, kind of the decrease in traffic accidents and the potential for injuries on our roadways. In summation, I really appreciate, as a citizen, being heard. I think Ms. Dryden has done an extraordinary job of getting the word out, and I heard someone say, I think it was Chief Cates earlier in the work session, that some of the citizens in the city are a little shy and don't necessarily want to speak publicly. Well, I assure you, I'm not shy, and I'm glad to speak publicly on this matter because it's an important matter for our citizens and for me in particular. So thank you all for what you do for our city, each and every one. Thank you for what you're doing to improve the quality of life and, more importantly, the safety of our citizens on our roadways. And I look forward to results, as I know you do as well. Thank you so much for hearing me this evening.
Thank you, Charles. Appreciate you being with us. Have anybody else like to speak to us tonight? Very well. Hearing no more, we will close the audience for visitors. Next item on the agenda would be a closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia 1951 as amended to discuss personnel matters, in particular the city manager's contracts. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Second? Thank you. Ms. Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Mayor Hooks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote.
Thank you very much. We're now in closed session. Okay.
We're good to go.
It again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I move we certify the closed session and that only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements by paragraph 2.2-3712, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the public body.
Thank you. Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Southall? Aye. Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7.
Thank you, Christie. Next item, item E on the agenda, election of the vice mayor and the appointment of the city manager, city attorney, and the city clerk. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution to elect Councilwoman Bunting as vice mayor. I've served with her on and off council for at least the last 22 years, and she's in her third council term and well qualified to do the job.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie. Next item would be...
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution to appoint Mr. Randy Wheeler as city manager.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman? Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie.
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution to appoint Mr. Wayne Moore as city manager. I'm sorry, city attorney.
I don't want to be a city manager. You might have to fight him if you do that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Mayor Hux?
Aye.
And the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution to appoint Ms. Christine Snap as city clerk.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Very well. Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilwoman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman, sorry. Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Mayor Mayor Hux? Like I'm trying to promote you.
Aye.
Motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you very much. Item F on the agenda is a special presentation. This is a proclamation for Human Trafficking Prevention Month. If I could ask Miss Anna Glatter and Miss Haley Dollar to join me at the podium, please. Ladies, good evening.
Sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you being with us, Anna. I'd like to introduce Miss Anna Glatter. She is the founder and executive director of the Anchor Project. Another important staff member is Miss Haley Dollar, and we've met them on several different occasions as we've been working towards this moment tonight. The mission statement of the Anchor Project. Our mission strongly believes in the 3 P's of human trafficking: prevention, protection, and partnership. We are a grassroots movement of advocates, action takers, and community changers working together to eradicate human trafficking from the Commonwealth of Virginia by raising comprehensive awareness, education, and providing outreach resources to our citizens, and by promoting civic engagement. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the members of Poquoson City Council that the month of January 2025 is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, reaffirming our commitment to increase awareness and education on human trafficking, make resources available to assist individuals and communities impacted by human trafficking, and build diverse public-private partnerships to support a more comprehensive response to prevent and respond to human trafficking. We thank you very much for what you're doing for this subject matter in our community and the surrounding area. And as stated, we have a resolution to present to you all tonight. It's a proclamation declaring January 2025 as Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And this is signed by all 7 council members. So ladies, thank you for being with us. Looking forward to working with you in the future. Thanks so much. Did y'all have any comments you'd like to share? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Haley Dollar, and I'm a dedicated volunteer with the Anchor Project, as well as I'm a survivor of human trafficking. In 1865, President Abraham Lincoln and the U.S. Congress ratified the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, which states, "Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States." No sensible person believes that the slavery can happen in the 21st century, far less on our shores. We could not be more wrong. When people hear the words human trafficking, they often think of a scene from the movie Taken, where you see a woman drugged, kidnapped, and forced into prostitution. While situations like this do exist and must be stopped, the issue is more extensive than we would like to think. Victims of human trafficking can be found in our schools, their bodies being sold by their friends or romantic partners so that they can earn money or drugs. They could be in a restaurant working long hours for little or no pay under the threat of deportation. They can be in a cult, coerced into thinking that this is the blessed place for them. They can be in their own homes, trafficked by their family. The clothes that we wear and the produce we ingest can be made by adults and children that are forced to work long hours in unsafe conditions. Traffickers and their victims can be found at the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl has the highest potential to become one of the largest sex trafficking incidents of the year, as U.S. victims are brought in to service the influx of people. Modern-day slavery happens in every community. It enslaves close to 50 million people worldwide. We as a community must be aware and take part in preventing this hidden crime from happening to our citizens. Anchor Project is grateful for the city of Poquoson for this milestone, and we are looking forward to future collaborations on prevention of the second largest criminal industry in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Glider and Ms. Dollar. Appreciate y'all being with us. Looking forward to working with y'all in the future. Next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes. We will need to do this in 3 separate motions. Do we have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the work session 9 December 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay. Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve regular session minutes 9 December 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Mayor Huss.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I propose we approve the strategic planning retreat January the 4th, 2025.
Second?
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilman Five.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Abstain.
Councilwoman Bunting.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Mayor Huss.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0 with one abstention.
Thank you, Christie. Item I is new business. We have 2 items for discussion. The first is a resolution making appointment to the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission, or HR TAC.
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution appointing Mayor David Hucks to the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission, HR TAC.
Second?
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
How many does this make?
About 4? Several.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Five.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting.
Aye.
Mayor Huss.
Aye.
The motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you very much, and do appreciate that opportunity as well. Next item, a resolution approving an employment agreement with the city manager.
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution approving an employment agreement with the city manager.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Very well. Christie?
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting.
Aye.
Councilman Five.
Aye.
Mayor Huss.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you very much. Comments of the city manager? Randy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I appreciate very much the direction that you provided earlier this evening relating to speed enforcement and hoping to change people's behaviors as it relates to speeding as well as sidewalks. Thank you for the action on my contract. I would also like to thank all of those that worked last night in winter conditions to put out a boat fire at the end of Rennes Road. Down there to see it today. And I would note to you that that was our new fire truck, Squad 1's first fire call. It had been in service, but it did not run a fire call prior. And I would also just like to take a moment to thank our Public Works folks who worked through the night on Friday and continued their efforts through Saturday morning into the afternoon to make our streets as safe as we could. We were thankful that Mother Nature and the temperature cooperated, but you never know, and we appreciate their efforts. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Randy. Council directives. I'll change up the order a little bit because it's the first meeting of the year. Councilman Five.
Okay, sounds good. Just wanted to say thanks to everybody that came out to the mobile food pantry last Thursday. It is held the second Thursday of every month, and we're working on changes and improvements in how it goes. The people at MS Baptist Church, that is now the host for the site, have been doing a fantastic job at helping us out. We don't have the room space that we had before we were a municipal building, that cars being able to line up. And they finally, the people from the food bank learned where we're located now, so they showed up on time for a change, and getting everything loaded and unloaded. It was like 24 degrees when I got there at 7 o'clock, and by the time we left at noon, it was still only 30 degrees, so it was fairly cold, and we had just a group of great volunteers from the Realtors Association, and the next one coming up next month, I'll announce it later on, but it'll be hosted by none other than us, the city staff. So, and I know that the newly reappointed city manager will probably make it easy for all of them to get off and help us out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Councilwoman Bunn.
I just wanted to say what a privilege and an honor it is to be chosen by my fellow council members to serve as vice mayor. I'm excited about this time for council. We had a very exciting retreat on the 4th. I think we all came away with a lot of positive information. I think we got to know each other a little better, and there were some citizens there as well, which is always good to have our citizens involved. And I think we learned a lot, and just excited about the future and moving forward and the things that we can do, the positive things that we can do for our community. I look forward serving in this capacity for all of our citizens. First and foremost, because that's the reason why we're here. Our community, the place we call home, which is Poquoson, representing staff, city council, the members that I work with, and our mayor. I do appreciate it. I don't take that lightly, and I just want to convey my appreciation for you putting that trust. Thank you for Public Works for being out there. Also, because it happened on the street that I live in, there was a need for Dominion Power to be out there and restoring some power to some homes in my neighborhood before the snow started. So thanks to all those folks who are out there working in the elements so that all of us are safe and warm in our home. I do appreciate that as well. And I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Debbie. Councilwoman Hubbard.
Well, I want to thank all of you and everyone who has given me such a warm welcome to City Council. Turnout in November that allowed me to be here was kind of impressive when you're running unopposed, to actually have people come out and actually vote for you. It's kind of cool. It's also humbling. I'm really pleased to see that the topics that are on your agenda, on all of our agenda that we're looking at, are ones that are close to my heart, and that's for the betterment of our community. So it's really exciting. It's an exciting time to be a member of council, and I'm really looking forward to serving all of you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Vice Mayor Freeman.
I want to say that as we start a new year with a new council, that congratulate our new mayor, vice mayor, and new council person. And I think we're headed in a good direction so far.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Emmett.
I love what Jeannie said, that it's an exciting time to be a member of council. That really hit home. And I just want to say congratulations. Welcome aboard, Councilwoman Hubbard. Congratulations to our new vice mayor and our mayor. And congratulations to our city manager. Thank you so much for being here for another couple of years. I would really like to thank Mayor Hux, the city staff, our city manager, Randy Wheeler, Neil Morgan, the facilitator for our strategic retreat. I think that was a very positive and very productive way to start off this new term and your term. And thank you so much for doing that. I think it's very much appreciated throughout council too. I think it's going to be of great benefit to the citizens. Thank you to the representatives of the Anchor Project for coming out today, everyone who spoke to us about their speeding concerns, and it's an exciting time to be on council.
Certainly is. Thank you, Angie. Councilman Southall.
Well, I'd like to second every comment that's been made so far tonight. Just especially congratulate our mayor, vice mayor, and thank Randy for accepting his contract. I think we're starting off the year the right way. I'd also like to add to that thanks to the people who came out and pay attention to the city government tonight, and those who watched it from home. It's very important. Invite your neighbors and friends to do the same thing. You can't pay enough attention to your city government, and you need to also invite you to apply for various boards and commissions. We do have a number of positions that need to be filled. Consider participating in your city government. If you want it to be better, participate and help make it that way. And with that, I think we will do well this year.
Thank you, Councilman Southall. If I could, I'd like to extend this opportunity to our city attorney, Mr. Wayne Moore, would you like to share any comments with us?
Pleased to be your city attorney for another term until you decide you don't want me. So I thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be the city attorney in your hometown where you have a vested interest in.
Yes, sir, and after 25 years in your role, that's quite impressive.
Nobody's gone to jail yet, so we're in good shape.
I apologize. I did not include you when I congratulated the rest of the comments. I forgot there were 4. Okay, thank you very much.
I'd also like to include our newly appointed council clerk of the city of Poquoson, Ms. Christy Snap. Would like to share any comments? Quite welcome. It's a pleasure having you with us. You're a great asset. On that note, I'd like to congratulate Vice Mayor Debbie Diggs Bunting, on her election to Vice Mayor. City Manager Randy Wheeler, congratulations on your reappointment, and thanks so much for all that you've done for this city. City Attorney, Mr. Wayne Moore, again, congratulations. Thank you. Our City Clerk, Christy Snap, has been with the city for a number of years and is highly qualified, and we are thrilled to have her join us here at the dais, us on staff. And Christy is currently working towards her municipal clerk certification, so that'll be another big feather in her hat. So best wishes with that, Christy. Also, again, like to welcome our newest council member, Councilwoman Jean Darby Hubbard. Jean had a PhD, and that is quite impressive for anybody to attain that level of education formally.
But now I'm honorable, so that's even better.
Yes, exactly. She's highly qualified and is a huge asset to this council. Thankful to have her with us as well. I'd also like to thank our staff for all their efforts with the strategic planning retreat. From what I've been told, this is the first one we've ever done. I've been involved with a couple of budget-specific retreats during my time on council, but this was our inaugural strategic planning retreat. I had high expectations, and thanks to staff and our facilitator, Mr. Neil Morgan, the retired York County administrator, it exceeded my expectations, which were already quite high. Staff put in a lot of hours of effort in planning and facilitate effort, and came out and took up most of their day on Saturday to make it happen, and it certainly has paid huge dividends, and we're hoping that this can set a precedent for us moving forward. The main thing it did for us, and I'll share this with the public, we're already a very close-knit group of people. Our relationships are based on mutual respect, admiration, and brotherly love for one another. And it starts with us as a leadership. And when we have those kinds of relationships, that sense of togetherness and community permeates the staff and then trickles down to the community as a whole. So that's what we're here to do, is set that example. And I am humbled and grateful to be sitting here as part of such a fine group of people that I think so highly of. I have people sitting here in this room tonight that are my own personal mentors and role models that certainly impacted my life. I want to express my appreciation to my immediate predecessors, Mayor Gordon Helsel and Mayor Gene Helsel. I hope y'all are watching tonight. If you are, thanks so much for all that you've done for us and for me in particular, and setting an example to serve in this capacity. I'd also like to extend that to their spouses. Ms. Pam Hunt and Ms. Joy Helsel. Without them, Gene and Gordon would not have been able to have served in the capacities that they did for a combined total of about 66 years in public office. So that's the kind of resources those two fine gentlemen been to me. As for our spouses of current council members, thank you to all of them as well. To my wife Teresa, she was my campaign committee of one throughout the campaign last year. Teresa and I have known each other since we were 14. We've been together since we were 19 and been married since we were 21 years old, and that was nearly 37 years ago. So she's the love of my life, my partner in life, and the mother of my children. So I want to thank her as well for all that she's done to support me in my role as a public servant. With that, any further questions or comments? Very well. Also, I wanted to comment on those that gathered with us tonight in attendance of our work session in the City Council meeting, as well as we had a really good crowd, I thought, at the retreat. So we really appreciate people in the public coming out to watch what's going on. We appreciate that. We're very heartened by that. And very encouraged by that. We hope that continues. I mean, the door's always open, and the public is always welcome and encouraged to be with us. So we do appreciate that. That being said, the next item is adjournment. If we have a motion.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor?
Aye.
Carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Just realized we're in a bit of